¿Qué onda? It's Naninator. Welcome to the Ultimate Weapon Compendium / Guide. Pause for the legend on the screen, otherwise blink and you'll miss it. We will start with everyone's favorite flavor, vanilla, because why use modded weapons you install when you got the originals by your side, right? First, we got the classic sword, just like in the Minecraft movie, your all-rounder slashing weapon. Second, if you want to hit a little bit harder, why not use Johnny's favorite, slobber in comparison, but doubles down as a tool to cut trees and logs. The pickaxe, the perfect panic weapon against randomly spawned Geonok. They're weak to it too. The shovel, I don't know why you would use this. Sure, bonking I guess. Hoes all do 1 damage for some reason, but they have different attack speeds. Bows are all good and reliable ranged weapon. Reminds me of my Minecraft PvP days. Then we got Better Survival by Craft for Block Baiter. This mod was so popular, some other people made extensions of it, especially the weapons such as Dragonborn and Defiled materials. First, hammers have an AoE right-clicking on the ground, can stun enemies, meh weapon in my opinion. Spears are pretty good, have 0.5 extra block reach and can be insta-thrown. Daggers are very impractical, basically designed for PvP in mind. Then we have battle axes that are mostly used for the disarm gimmick versus some enemies. Nunchucks are amazing, can hit infinitely by left-clicking press, great for endgame with lots of enchants. The crossbow is pretty lackluster, uses normal arrows interestingly enough though. Then we have Spartan weaponry. There's a lot of weapons for this mod, and even some other mods that include onto them, like Spartan File or Spartan Defiled. It's very interesting. There are so many weapon traits to this that I really want to emphasize them, and I want you guys to pay attention. So make sure that you pause the video for these sections to know what I'm referring to when I go over them. Something very interesting is that visually you can see they have like a little red handle to tell them apart from other kinds of weapons, especially since some overlap in names, like the battle axe and dagger from Better Survival, as well as from this Spartan Fire. One of the most interesting weapon traits that I find is the sweep types, because the reach can be kind of crazy. I'm about to provide a clip for the biggest one, being the sentient scythe, provided by Lestorp that you just saw. Hope that really helped you out. And with that, some interesting ones too is a two-handed debuff you if you have something in your other hand. So with that, let's get started. The Battle Axe has the highest base damage of all Spartan weapons. I like it can be used as an axe as well, so pretty nice finisher weapon. Note, even though many weapons do have two-handed negative traits, it's still worth taking it sometimes. The dagger, similar to the one by Better Survival, has a backstab bonus. Also impractical, as most mobs will face you in fighting. In optimal conditions, you will get 1 hit on average at best, throwable for some reason too. The greatsword is pretty nice, great in mid-game for taking on groups of enemies. Personally enjoy using it in Doom-like dungeons that have tight spaces with lots of spawners, because Scape 3 does 100% damage to all enemies. The katana is pretty quick, it's okay and niche for 1v1 combat against melee enemies or for something like a boss, but given the nature of this mod pack, this is very unlikely anyways, not recommended. Longswords have decent damage, but it is in an odd spot due to its traits. It begs being used with a shield, but the debuff on the damage for it makes it awkward. I like to think of it as a heavy vanilla sword with sweep 1. Rapiers are quick and spammable, amazing early game for its damage abruption property. It's nice being able to quickly fend off enemies to fend with its amazing attack speed. Sabers are basically rapiers that sacrifice attack speed for damage. My weapon of choice early to mid-game though has a nice bonus of having sweep 1 included as well, and the shape really reminds me of scimitars and pirate weapons. The scythe has the biggest sweep range out of all weapons, comparable to the greatsword. This is Spartan weapons, but does less damage overall. Despite this, in some scenarios it can hit harder than due to the head bonus. Looks cool too. The glaive, also known as a sword and a stick, is a midpoint between a great and a longsword. Very nice to use with a shield if you can get rid of the debuffs, like with vitamins or silver armor. The halberd hits pretty hard, but it's also must wield with both hands. I personally don't like it as much. Could be used as a finisher weapon too, kind of like a battle axe with a bit more reach, popular with a lot of people. A lance is very impractical, dare I say even bad. The inconsistent damage even when following the must-write requirements for bonus damage makes it awkward. Unless you're mounting all day, I don't recommend it. The pike is very nice, safe weapon and the longest reach in the game, making combat safer. I like using it on the lost cities. Keep in mind it's great for looting since it's less you interact with items like chests from far away too. The spear I consider to be an early to mid game. You want to use it with a shield, hits decently hard, and if you're aware of your surroundings, can be very good main weapon in many scenarios. Then we have the hammer. It is very slow, it is niche, only being able to knock back enemies, if anything. Could be okay as a second weapon, but even then I do not recommend it. Don't confuse it with a better survival hammer, by the way. Then we have the flag mace. It is an amazing early weapon, and I always carry one as a secondary one in the early game because there's many undead enemies you can kill in 1 or 2 hits less, especially nice in battle towers. The quarterstaff is considered to be high risk, high reward. It is very fast and best without a shield. Its main niche is taking groups of enemies as fast as possible with its high attack speed. The Warhammer is surprisingly good. You probably want to use this mid-game once you start encountering enemies with armor. This is best as long as you don't have the enchant rune-piercing capabilities, which has the same effect, but must be for late game. The case test is basically a boxing glove. It has the ability to bypass invincibility frames, but the damage does not make up for it. Honestly, a pretty bad weapon. It's cheap to make, however. The little brother of troll weapons is the club. It is made out of 2 wood logs and can be studded like the Caestus. Its only quirk is nauseous blow, and I don't see any scenario in it will honestly help you. Longbows are the best ranged weapon in my opinion, since they hit harder based on the material you make. They hit hard and get better as you increase your L menu archery skills. The crossbow is a slow to charge but has very high reach. Note they use bolts as ammo, not nice to use around mid-game. Many players use them for their first dragon kill. They're not very strong, but sniping is very easy with them. I personally love the throwing knives, especially in the early game because they're very cheap to make, travel pretty nicely, and they have 16 ammo. My personal choice for playthroughs and make it immediately when I start. Throwing axes hit harder than knives, but travel slower, less distance, and have 8 ammo. I find I hit myself often when they bounce off enemies due to this. It can be nice, but tricky to use. Javelins hit very hard and travel pretty decently, but they only have 4 ammo. Good early to mid game, but otherwise the better survival spears fill this niche nicely and are instant thrown in the early game. Boomerangs are awkward to use. Unlike other thrown weapons, they have no melee damage. If you master their use and bounce them around, they can be devastating secondary weapons, but I have yet to see someone to use them skillfully. Dynamite is pretty niche. I would only bother them in a hole with lots of mobs in it. I find this happens often in some of the spiral dungeons with multiple floors. I wouldn't bother with it too much, however. The Scape and Run weapons are the definitive best of all the mod pack. All the melee ones share the same damage with one special trait that differentiates them all. See my sentient armor and weapon video for more info on them too. So let's get going. The axe is the least useful of all. Its only niche is inflicting corrosion that just wears down armor durability. Blandest weapon of the SRP set in my opinion. I wish it could at least be used to chop trees with versatility. The sword is slightly above the axe because it at least does some damage over time with bleed. Your goal being to dispatch enemies at the point you can get this weapon. Withering them down is really not your goal. The lance is the cheapest to make given it needs the least materials out of all SRP weapons. Also inflict Needler that can do great burst damage once you reach Needler 7. Good versus bosses. The Cleaver is the best weapon in terms of DPS as tested by KKHR. By just a bit with max enchantments, closely followed by nunchucks, it is also the best offhand weapon due to the amplified damage it causes by vulnerability that it inflicts. The Scythe has the largest AoE of all weapons in the game, doing full damage each blow, an incredible weapon to take on waves of enemies, especially useful in the Velocities of Forgiving Dimension and Onslaught it hosts. The Maul is one of the newer weapons in the set being added onto SRP, not officially in the mod pack, but very interesting nonetheless. I wish just to mention it. The niche it's supposed to have is that it has an AoE about a chunk in front of you. Lastly, the SRP bow is the strongest ranged weapon, but only by a small margin in comparison to the Blooded Dragon longbow. If you have one max, there's little reason to upgrade, really. The Defiled Lance has many weapons available. Ravaging tools fall into the same category as vanilla mentioned at the beginning of the video. Tricky to make due to the materials required for them, but don't have any benefits as weapons. Interesting nonetheless. Quick to break blocks with too. The Raptor and Umbra Blaster are reliable range early to mid-game weapons. Basically guns. The Raptor shoots Umbrian pellets while the Umbra Blaster can shoot blasts and fruit. They're both very fun and interesting to use and have some very useful exclusive enchants. I rarely see any players use them, but they are very good, and their limited enchant pools means they are nice consistent enchantments, usually for more damage. The Concussion Smasher is pretty weird, basically making the user explode like a creeper that does not hurt them or grieve the terrain. Nice to use in dungeons packed with enemies by mid-game, I'd say. The Scarlet Razor is a quick but weak weapon. Bad, but it's good at restraining life or hunger though, implying you eat yourself. Ew. Okay, combo paired with the Scarlet Reaver. This amazing early mid-game weapon is a 101 heal source. It activates Leech 1 for a second after hitting an enemy, which means it heals half a heart for any hit, so you want to spam it for best effectiveness. The Tears of Penance is a magic staff that shoots fireballs. A melee weapon, just leave it clicked, but it's nice that it does not need any ammo. I like to use it for instant cooked food for animals too. Then we have the Tears of Retribution. Shoot shulker projectiles, but only when you are near an aggressive mob. It can be nice to slow down or run away from dangerous foes, but the projectiles have somewhat weird pathing, making them somewhat awkward to use. Lastly, the fruits are explosive weapons and ammo for the previously mentioned Ravager and Umber Blaster. Just pick them up and throw them like snowballs. But be careful collecting them since they can explode. Nice early game weapon for AoE damage. Note that they do grief. Get ready for the forgotten items because this is just a bunch of pickaxes with very similar strats. So let's see if we can get through them quickly, as most are pretty bad for anything but mining or fighting Geonox since they are weak to them. The Explosion Pickaxe is probably the best for damage as it causes grieving explosions when you mine any block with it, but not by attacking mobs directly. Said explosion can do decent damage to normate mobs, but not to the user. It can, however, knock you back a little bit. The Gamble Pickaxe is the closest thing you'll get to a casino in RLCraft. Bad damage rate, its gimmick is having 50-50 chance of either duping or destroying a block. Shulker boxes do not get affected. The Vein Pickaxe, saying its name, makes me feel goosebumps. Mediocre as a weapon, as a tool it can be fast overall, but good as a secondary pick, but Lycanites are better. The Hasted Pickaxe's name implies mine's very fast, but as a bad weapon too. Utility-wise, I like the Vein Pickaxe better, honestly. People just go for it if it's in the quest log of achievements. The Obsidian Smasher, a standalone mod is pretty nice and niche, but the Elskin menu already provides accelerated effect for this to all pickaxes, so it's not really worth it getting it. The Bound Tools have low damage as well, but are very useful for their gimmick or staying on inventory upon death. I personally love having an axe with Curse of Possession, Luck Magnification, and Sharpness as a multi-utility tool, especially in DLC. Going into the ocean, we can see Aquaculture items. I ponder on even adding this section, but they stand out enough by themselves. You can get the materials from them by fishing via bounty boards, ocean doomlegs, and in Dregora from special traders. The sword is actually very good for its tier, nice damage, reliable, amazing durability, and better than the Netherite sword from the newer Minecraft version, surprisingly. I like to use it if I get lucky enough to find one by mid-game. Every tuning tool has here basically the same idea as other tools, but interestingly have a pretty nice damage level tied to them. And on top of that, they are durable, make an okay weapon in a pinch, and bring many incredible useful items. Next we have No Tree Punching, one of the main mods RLCraft is famous for using and what makes people even have to go through flint tools in the first place. Knives are okay emergency weapons, craftable in the 2x2 player grid, quick and low damage, but better than using your fists. Primarily used to cut down items to get base materials such as leather from leather armor. The Madhawk is mediocre damage-wise, many players have no idea what this thing is, but simply put, think of this as a spork equivalent of a shovel, a hoe, and an axe. Okay tool to have in my opinion. The saw is every player's best friend, as with max enchants it can be used to cut down trees, mine, and break most blocks. It even doubles down as an emergency weapon, so having it as a secondary option with cursor possession can funnily work. The clay tool, built for those who enjoy furiously clicking their mouse. Break it even, maybe? Just a bundle of sticks, or rather defined as, well, you get the point. Note, some hoes are faster. Tired from clicking too much on that mouse? Worry not, for the food expansion lollipop will replenish your energy. Why does this hurt more than a punch? I have no idea, but this thing will never break. A great snack to both defeat your foes and consume. If you enjoy fishing, we have the Fishing Made Better mod. You probably want to fillet that fish knife, right? The fillet knife will just do the stuff for you, very fast to attack as a weapon, mediocre damage however, maybe make filet mignon with your enemies out of this. Then we have made you be wondering how to get it if you have skill on your bow. Well, good question. For the exact same stats, you can also scale them with a scaling knife. Those pesky scales will no longer torment your cooking endeavors. Surprisingly, with better Nether, you can actually make quote-unquote weapons out of syntheticite with 2 pickaxes and 2 axes available. I wouldn't bother, but as tools are decent when using the reinforced versions with diamonds. The switchbow mod is amazing, and I highly recommend making either a bow or crossbow. Not for this damage, but amazing utility with a myriad of arrows exclusive to it. I highly encourage you to test out the arrows in creative mode. You can shoot them from a dispenser and the arrow dispenser too. I recommend the bow more than the crossbow, by the way. Oh, do note that the arrow dispenser does crash RLCraft 2.9.3 and below, but not for RLCraft Dregora of any versions. And no Black Eagle actually fixed it. Lycanite weapons are incredibly versatile and interesting as they act like Lego since you can mix and match them. Unfortunately, they require high building levels and they are rare drops. Usually by the time you can make them, you are more likely to have access to better options like other mods. Despite that, they make some of the best tools. I do recommend going for one if you have an Ent Arm or Darkling Head early game though, since they have life-stealing properties. Check my Lycanite tool video for more information. The summoning staff is a versatile tool that is very useful early to mid-game. I highly recommend studying Aegis that spawn in villages to use as formidable allies. If you learn how to use it, you can even summon Grooves, Banshees, and Nymphs. The Red Skull is a reward you can obtain from defeating Rahovard. It summons 5 Reds that travel in an evenly distributed straight line. A fun weapon, by the time you get it, you will likely have better ranged weapons you can use, but can't be used for mining, however. I am amazed there is even an item from this mod that does damage. Honestly, this is just a meme item in my opinion. Shots set enemies on blocks on fire. The ammo is non-redeemable, so I recommend you disintegrate them onto Spectral Stealth instead along with the gun itself. Ice on Fire is a very interesting mod that allows you to have access to various weapons of various calibers and natures, so let's get onto it. There's a total of 7 troll weapons sharing the exact same stats. They have this 3D look to them, they have good damage, but are also very slow in exchange. Can be fun to use, but I don't recommend them under most circumstances. The Hippocampus Slapper has the same attack speed as a sword, but only deals 2 damage per attack. Also, it will apply Nausea 2 and Slowness 2 to its target for a total of 5 seconds. The Tide Trident is basically the equivalent of the modern Trident. The difference is the recipe, that it does more damage underwater and can pierce through multiple enemies. It is throwable too. There's 2 Dread Swords, the Thrall and Knights, which are actually pretty good. Tricky to get, and if you only have Ice and Fire installed, amazing. But RLCraft, just another okay option if it does drop. The Lich Staff is pretty fun, but requires 32 magic. Usually lackluster by the point that you can use it. It auto-mains on aggro mobs though. Its niche lies on it since it can hit mobs in corners you can't see. Nice versus Lycanite dungeon bosses, slow too, dropped by liches that spawn in cold biomes. The Phantasmal Blade is uncraftable and unfinished in RLCraft. Its gimmick is throwing energy beams that go through blocks. It is pretty weak and lackluster, but in case that is brought later, can be a safe weapon for players that like to live on their bases made out of glass. The spookiest item echoes in the ears and hearts of every RLCraft player. The Trumpet! Even though it does no damage by itself, it has a bit of knockback. A must-have for any avid collector and annoying skeleton. Despite everything, real life has guns, and as such, to stay true to its name, RLCraft as well. You can get the legendary musket as a possible drop from sacrificial amulet chests. Unfortunately, the bullets it comes with aren't renewable. If you get it in early to mid-game, it's a formidable weapon. The weapon staff is pretty much like the musket, a reward from the sacrificial amulet chest with uncraftable ammo. This time it's Ant Mana. You could craft it, but it was actually blacklisted. It has unreliable damage, they travel far, and okay if you get it early game, I'd say. The Holy Hand Grenade is an incredible single-use weapon capable of doing up to 168 damage at point blank and covers a radius of 22 to 23 blocks. Of course, the damage falls off the further you are, expensive to make, but puts a real dent on bosses and can even one-shot some Lost Cities mobs in a single blow. It's pretty dangerous to use, escaping its range is pretty hard since the fuse lasts only 2 seconds. With all that being said, this guide would have not been possible without the help of the community of RLCraft, such as the Wiki and Discord, especially the text guide section, to which KKHR widely contributed to as well. I highly encourage you all to check the last one out, as they made the detailed guide of the most common weapons too. And as to the video itself, find your own playstyle and test different weapons, as you can beat the game with any, honestly. I will share my personal preferences though. For the early game, I usually go for the saber, flang mace, and javelins to throw. By mid-game, I sometimes transition to a halberd or greatsword alongside a crossbow before my first dragon kill, and a bow after it. By the end game, I usually use a fun weapon, but the definitive best are the nunchakus. If not another weapon that does decent AoE damage and is fast like a quarterstaff. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, notification, and subscribe. Ahí los guacho, vatos.